It says, I freeze people. What are your superpowers?
Great. Nice one. Nice one.
Okay.
So we're at 6:58. Shall we get started?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So I want to, first of all, I want to say welcome to everybody. It's great to see you again. And, you know, we've been doing this now for a long time, and it's been working pretty darn well. I really appreciate the great survey response that we had from you. We had at least half the current membership responded to the survey and gave lots of really good insights and suggestions. It'd be nice to do something that would make everybody happy about everything, and that's not going to work.
That's what Abraham Lincoln said.
You know, unless we're all heavily medicated and like that. So at least for you have gotten a report, a newsletter report from me that goes into details about what the board talked about, what it is that we're working on, and the direction that we're heading, and basically the 50-second kind of viewpoint of that is that we're certainly going to continue on as we are now. And then as things open up for us, we have identified a couple of sites that may be opportunities. Again, we're all in a wait and see mode to see what will be truly available to us and when it will be available. We definitely want to go back to meeting in person, and we're also looking at how we can meet in person and offer remote attendance as well. And we're not making any promises, but we're looking at it. We've got a group that is playing around with the technology, and we'll be mocking it up to see how it works. And hopefully you won't mock us too much when you see the outcome. Oh. So we also talked about the business of print versus digital. And we're going to continue to have print and digital. But what we're going to do that's different is we're going to offer, since they are different animals in a sense, a print is a print is a print is a print, and a digital image is something that's shown on a screen and it's not a print. And so what we're looking at is saying, okay, those of you who want to work with the print as the end product, as the thing that you see as being your art, then we're going to facilitate that and have the judge on that. We're also going to have digital images, and the judge will judge digital images separately, and we'll offer awards first, second, and third in both categories. So we're just going to have apples and oranges, print, digital. What we want to do is we certainly want to encourage people to be involved with print. And so we're looking at how to have some classes that would be for people that want to know how to get better prints at home, or conversely, how to get the print you want from an outside source. And so we're going to be offering those kinds of classes as we get closer to being able to meet in person, because like I said, we want to encourage people to be comfortable with and to enjoy photography as a print medium if they choose to. So also we have user groups that are doing well. We're getting about 10 people with each meeting. The photo finishing user group is going to meet next week, meets the third Thursday. It's online, it's a Zoom meeting, and current current members are encouraged to come. It's a lot of fun. The photographic basic group is going to be changing it has changed its meeting time to the fourth Thursday of the month. And that's a good opportunity for interaction and learning. And also it's been a really good place to take your images for the next assignment and get feedback from your peers about what's working and what's not. And so that's been a nice resource. We're preparing a membership roster with name and email address and the city location to help facilitate you all getting together to do shoots like we're talking about with Fran and I going off and Jerry to take a look at how to set up Bill's fantastic sighting technology. And to participate, what the board asked is that instead of just sending everybody's name out and like that, some people may not want their email available to everybody, and that's fine. So to participate, what you need to do is to send an email to fstops9@gmail.com. You can do that from the website. There's a little spot down at the bottom for comments, and you put in the comment that you want to opt in. So it's a situation where you have to opt in. You don't have to opt out. So far, we have 4 willing opt-in participants, including myself, and would like to see a lot more, but if not, 4 is good. Start. In-person events are coming back. We're looking at having, the event committee is looking at having some kind of event each month. And the first one is going to be on July 24th at 8 o'clock in the morning at the Garden of the Gods in Chatsworth. So the information was on the email that I sent out. There's a website that will show you Garden of the Gods. It's located in Santa Susana Pass. We're going at 8 o'clock in the morning because it's toasty later on. You can even show up earlier if you want to and get a little bit even nicer lighting. And I would consider bringing a prop. Dan, you can bring a model or two if you like, but I was thinking more in terms of, there's a lot of cute stuff that you can take and then put into unusual, nooks and crannies. You can put them in a cave, you can put them in a shrub, something that's got a lot of color or whatever. If you have some sort of a prop, bring it along, and it can add to what you're doing. So something to think about. And does anybody have any questions about that, about how things are going with the club or whatever?
I got a question. I've been kind of out of the loop for probably over a year. And are we still collecting dues, or what's happening there?
Yeah, we are still collecting dues. It's $40 a year, and I believe you're paid up.
Good for me.
Good for you, and good for everybody else who's here online. Because if you aren't paid up, you didn't get an email. And well, actually, I guess I did send it out to former members as well. But because I certainly would like to bring back anybody who hasn't been a member for whatever reason. And also we definitely want to encourage people to participate. And yes, there are expenses to what we do. We pay the judge, and that's got to come from us. We probably don't pay the judges enough, but they are so incredible. So I'll stop there because I don't want to get into a bidding war here. Speaking of the judge, we have Keith Skelton this evening. Hi, Keith.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, and
Been a while.
Yeah, it has, and we're looking forward to your insights, and we're looking forward to the frames within frames. And one question that came up, and that is, are we looking at multiple frames within frames, or are we talking about like a frame and then something within that frame, like a window being the frame and then something outside the window being the subject? Or are we looking at multiple frames within the same image?
I think we're looking at both.
Okay,
And when I make, they kind of go along the same territory. So when I show you some examples, maybe it will be helpful.
cool. Thank you. Think that'll help, right, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Dan, will you introduce Mr. Skelton?
Okay, so first of all, though Keith, you and I have been emailing back and forth. Nice
We
to
sure
actually
have.
see
Thank you for your
face to
patience.
face. Appreciate that. Thank you for joining us. For some of you will recognize Keith. He's been a judge with us in the past. For those who haven't, just a little bit of background. He's an internationally acclaimed and award-winning photographer who has photographed just about everything there is to photograph, from commercial and advertising photography, which is something near and dear to me for a 40-year career in advertising. For me, he's done fine art landscapes, street photography, photojournalism, and as I said, anything else that there is to photograph, Keith has done so. And for the last number of years, Keith has also been leading workshops throughout California, the West, as well as he teaches photography at Santa Monica and Pasadena City College. Is that correct, Keith?
No longer Santa Monica.
No longer Santa Monica. Okay,
Yeah.
so you
Not
guys
for a
have to
few
drive
years.
out to Pasadena then.
Not even Pasadena.
Okay, well, okay,
Well,
then I'll let you update.
That's an old resume, but I appreciate it.
Went to the website. In any case, so where are you teaching besides the workshops then, Keith?
Well, that's all I'm doing is the workshop. And as most of you know from last year during COVID, everything was pretty much shut down. So I guess I'm lucky to still be walking, and I'm starting my classes back up in late August, knock on wood. And so I've got a fairly full schedule. A lot of them is rescheduled stuff I had to postpone from 2020. I've had a lot of patient and very kind participants that are, willing to postpone and move on to the next class. So we go to, I'm going to Death Valley in December. I'm going up to the Palouse in August. I do a Nevada ghost town trip later in the fall. Salton Sea, Norman remembers that, I think.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful trip.
Yeah, people are still into it. It's a crazy place. White Sands, New Mexico, a lot of different stuff. So
So Keith, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everybody for a second, and Keith, I'm going to ask you then to unmute yourself, and let me set it up so you can share your screen. Hang on a second, and then there we go. Okay, so you can share your screen, Keith, and I'm going to mute everybody briefly, and we will resume after the judging. Then we'll resume with conversation. I'm also going to ask you not to chat. Actually, I'll probably disable the chat just so that we can all focus on Keith and pay respect to all the entered.
So you want me to show the images and discuss?
I'll let you go ahead and present next month's assignment, and then.
Oh, we do that first?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
Before the judge? Okay.
That'd be great. So give me about 10 seconds. I'm going to mute everybody, and then Keith, please unmute yourself. Okay. Here we go.
Unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And now I need to share the screen, right? So let me see this thing. View.
Let me know if you have any challenges. I'll stay unmuted for a moment until you get everything set up. Here we go.
Can you see it?
Yep,
Okay.
it's all yours.
Okay, so as you asked me initially, frame within frames or frames. I mean, initially, when we take a photograph, there's a frame around it, correct? But we can use frames within the photograph very dynamically for composition. And there's all sorts of frames. There's frames that you could have in the foreground, the background. They don't have to be square. They could be natural. They could be circles. It is a tool for your composition. And it's a great way to get the viewer's eye into your picture, to get give interest to your picture and involve the viewer. It's really about positioning your main subject so it's framed by something within the scene. You might use a rectangular frame or like a door or window. So I'll just kind of move along here. I have another project I do that some of these are in part of, where I'm doing a little book called Room with a View, because I travel around so much and I stay in all kinds of unusual motels and stuff. And so I started collecting pictures that I call Room with a View. But these are also frames. So there's a multitude of frames going on in this picture. And it is divided. And I think when I first talked to you about a divided sort of picture, this is sort of what I had in mind, but the frames, within frames is good. So we have a frame of the door, we have a frame within the window, we have a reflection in the mirror, etc. This is one of the more common sort of things where you have a frame looking into a frame. It's a pretty common thing. You see them all the time, but it's a very useful tool in your photography. This would be considered a frame in the background. Your eye goes to these people on, this is down on Chungking Road some years ago. They're looking into their artwork, and this cook is kind of looking in from the outside. So it presents a story by him looking into those windows, which are frames. There's a lot like this. You have a frame, again, looking through doors and windows. So this would be a frame considered in the foreground and the background. I just shot this last week out in Amboy, and boy, was it hot. Again, we have our main frame, right? But then this window in the background adds multiple interest. So it allows us to look out and through the frame into the world. So that it gives you depth within the photograph. Again, from the viewpoint of the lens, or my viewpoint, looking through the frames out into the world. This time I focused on the door itself and let the background go soft, which I felt that the frame itself was more of interest. So we have a picture frame. We have the picture that is framed, and then you have a window that's reflecting, that's framed, and then the frame around the photograph as a whole. People can be framed in your photographs many different ways. In this shot, people are looking out of the window. I have some others where you'll see that they look through the window. Windows are a great tool for framing or creating portraits as a dynamic tool. We have a multitude of frames here. I mean, how many do I want to? I mean, there's a lot of all these little squares. these repetitive little squares in this rundown shack create frames that attract the viewer. And then I've put the window main frame dead center. And then through that, there's even more windows and doors and frames. Again, looking out, a similar story. There's the frame around the photograph, there's the outer frame of the window, and then there's all the frames of the windows themselves. It seems sometimes simple, but once you start looking, I think it's a great way to create dynamic photographs. Very simple, just looking out through the window, but it's almost like, hate to say it, like a TV screen, with curtains, or an old theater. But the frame that creates more interest, it shows you where I am as the photographer, and it gives us more of a sense of place rather than me just shooting straight out and as it is without any frame around it at all. This is another one I just did last week. You can see I have a lot of pictures where I'm shooting out of windows, into windows. This is the Amboy Church. Some of you may have been out that way. Lots of interesting stuff to photograph out there. This one I'm at a slight angle. It's not so straight on. It gives some dynamic shape to it, but each one of those little squares presents like a photograph in itself. The larger square window on the right could be divided in half from the one on the left. So there's a multitude of pictures happening within one picture. Likewise with this. Someone was talking about bringing props to your location. Well, sometimes you can find props. I found this shoe, and I thought, well, I put it in the frames, the windows, but then this other little goofy frame on the left, the hole in the wall, mimics the same shape as the shoe, so it adds some, compositional interest. This has all kinds of frames going on. It's a reflection of a reflection through a window. I don't know how many windows are here. This is in South Pasadena, but the sun was reflecting through windows, and it created this abstract scene of frames and squares and rectangles. It's just more simple, where there's just frames in the background. So if you had if you wanted to use this location for a portrait, and maybe you could have somebody sitting on those steps in front of the red door, or maybe somebody is in the shadow of that rectangular frame or triangular frame on the left, that hard dynamic. Sun coming through frames. I don't know how many of you have, either in the morning or at night in your home where you live, where the sun comes through your windows. It's a great opportunity. You don't have to go anywhere. The light just trickling through your window, and you can shoot the shadows of the light coming through, or the windows themselves. So there's a bunch of stuff going on here, including the main center interest, which is looking through the window and seeing the mountains in the distance. So again, this presents a multitude of almost like separate photographs within one photograph, if that makes sense. Likewise with this, same location in Amboy, the warm sun coming through, looking through the door, looking into another door, and then you see the background frames, shadow of the windows. This might be a kind of shot you could do at home. I don't know what your house is like. You know, a simple still life, maybe on a table where the frame is in the background, and add visual interest. It just gives a sense of place. You don't need to know exactly where it is. The photo is all about the leftover lunch, and but rather than just photographing the plate by itself, I tilted up and included this out of focus bokeh type situation. And bokeh is a tool you can use in framing as well. Mirrors, you know, it's a different kind of frame. It's literally a frame, but it frames whatever scene you're seeing in the background. We reflect it into the mirror. Again, if you had a person in this, it could be really add a whole nother element to it. If you have any mirrors hanging on your walls, I don't in my house, but you know, it could be a good subject, especially if you had light falling into the window or if it's reflecting something else. So you don't have to go necessarily out to Amboy. These are different sets of frames. Literally, it's not a picture frame, but the red poles of this old gas station. Again, it divides the picture up into all sorts of different sections. You know, there's a photo on the right, there's a photo on the left, there's a photo below. So it adds a multitude of images within one image. And that's what, by framing it or using graphic devices to divide your picture into frames. Similar deal, again, looking through doors, more doors, frames. That gives you a sense of dynamic space, depth, because you're looking down this hallway, and then there's a door on the right, there's a door on the left, there's door number 3 in the back, and then the mystery door way in the back. I've sold this as prints. People like it. I guess I like it. For my photo training, when I went to Brooks Institute, we always were trained, you know, line up your verticals and line up your horizontals. Not always, but in a shot like this, I don't want anything curved. I want everything really even, level, you know, so it's very rigid in a sense. But again, each one of these there's all these little pictures within this picture. There's a picture of the old heater, you know, there's a picture of the back door, there's a picture of the ceiling, etc. And the fact that this one window is open leads the viewer leads your eye through that window on the right, and then your eye will go all the way through the picture and lead out the back window. At least that's the intention. Another room with a view of a project. You know, just a simple shot, taking note that there's daylight, but it's still dark in the house. This is where I always use daylight white balance, because I'm an old film guy, and you know, when we shot film, it was always daylight balance. And so I stay with daylight. Even though I'm shooting raw, I know it doesn't matter what white balance you use in raw, but if I start with daylight, then I usually stay there. I let the warm lights go warm, blue lights go blue. It's more of a natural feeling to me for that daylight white. A very similar shot. The one on the left was this one is in out by Joshua Tree, and this was in Buffalo, New York. The same idea, pretty much. You know, you look out the window, there's some trees, there's a place out there, and then the mirror shows the viewer where I am by using these frames and reflections and windows. There's a very common shoot through a door with a subject in the background. This one's a little different. The still frames. These guys are looking. It's a mystery, but they are looking into framed windows. I don't know what, but I like the mystery of it. This is also a frame of sorts. It's the shadow on the highlight of the framed window. So I'm not literally shooting the window, but that's by the highlight on that wall and the shadow. Now, also, this is kind of off topic, but when we use symbolism in our photography, one of the obvious symbols we have in Western society is the cross. There's all kinds of symbols, but sometimes you don't even realize that you're subconsciously in your mind, it attracts your eye to a picture, symbols. There's a great old book called, one of my photography teachers had me read, called by Carl Jung, called Man and His Symbols. Had nothing to do with photography, but symbolism and how it can be used by artists. This is a different kind of symbol. But again, it's the frame is the light coming through the window, the door in this case, and it frames the shadow of that old boot. Again, I didn't bring the boot with me, but I found it. There's a different type of frame, a little drawer, and I did a whole series of these where I actually ordered some exotic insects off of eBay some years ago, just to photograph them. They were like a part of a bug collection. Let me go a few more. Cut me off if you need to. Here's another series of pictures. These are more natural frames. So this is at the where they used to have the Topanga Canyon Fiddle Fest. Great place for photography. I think it burned down a couple years ago, unfortunately. But this framing of this boy, he's looking at the dancer, and you look through his arms, and then there's the judge who's looking at the dancer, and then the
Keith,
people.
I think we're still looking at the bug. Raise your hands if that's what everybody else is seeing. Yeah, we're still seeing the
Oh, okay. Let me let's see. Do I have to share a new window?
yeah, I think you can stop sharing and just reshare. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Okay, this one?
That's it.
Okay, the boy. Okay, so this is not the bug. So again, this framing, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good. He's looking at her, she's looking at her, whoops, she's looking, so, whoops. The fact that I purposely shot through this, made this a frame, is far more interesting. I mean, I could have moved to the side, like, oh, this kid's in the way. But it actually turned to be a dynamic tool to use that as a frame. You see this guy, he's got interest. This little kid is like, what the heck? And this lady, it must be the mother, maybe, I don't know. But that's what you consider more of a natural framing. Here's a frame in the doorway, but it's just a small part of the picture. There's this guy down here standing in the doorway, silhouetted. I mean, it's a landscape, but when I was taking the landscape, and then this guy came walking through the ruin, and I did a snapshot. And again, it's still a type of frame where it really makes the whole photograph. The much better photograph with this human element down here. Natural frames, you know, the trees, this tree tunnel look. It's a sort of framing where it frames it creates a frame so your eye shoots down the center of the composition. It creates depth where your eye wants to be involved. It becomes more of a three-dimensional image, even though we all know it's still two-dimensional. This is a similar type of framing as the other one, except for it's a building. So this background creates a frame all around for this woman. I could have gotten tied on her and just, you know, maybe just, but this whole adds a sense of place, you know, the nice light just hitting her. Again, the frame in the background. It's a picture about these silly little dogs, but the fact this guy is sitting in this frame, in this doorway, adds interest to it, sense of place. Here's a common, you know, somebody looking out the window. All the frames, it's, you know, there's a picture over here, there's this picture here, there's a picture here, you know, and then there's a picture as a whole. Again, framing. It can be, you know, it's a wide open, but these I think it was down on a dock, so there's something to do with a dock. But the fact that they surround the subject lighting the cigarette, this is an old picture, and create a frame so you know exactly where to look. Different kind of frame. Talk about bugs and sausage. But this guy is framed. It's a natural. You got these scissors hanging. You know, this is obviously what he's charging for this stuff in Chengdu. So when I first got this, it was very low light. This is in Havana, but I wasn't sure if I liked this because it wasn't, I had to use like a f1.4, f2 or something to get the picture of the bust of, I'm guessing that's supposed to be Lenin. And I thought this out of focus stuff was bothersome at first, but I actually like it because it makes your eye go into where it's sharp, where the image is sharp. And again, all these different, this is separate frames. The light, you know, there's the water below, but the light that makes your eye go right through that picture. Dark versus light, warm versus cool. Things that are natural in the environment is what attracts our eyes to picture. Another kind of frame again. For portraits, you know, have somebody looking through something. It is a type of frame. This picture is good on a few respects, but I'm not totally satisfied with it, but it has this downtown LA, right? This red sculpture is a nice frame, and then these lights, an added S curve to it. But I just wish there was something more interesting other than the umbrellas back here, like, you know, some human activity or something. Because I got all this stuff looking for this, and then it's not that interesting in the center. Could have easily just not included this sculpture, and this is New York City, in the photo, but the fact this big red thing out of focus, and then just isolated this guy reading the paper with this shaft of light coming through in the afternoon, reading something about the Padres, I think. But it's the framing, where he's just in this triangle down there. So it's a very graphic, somewhat simple photograph, but your eye knows where to look. Hallways are great. You get up in a hallway and it's a beautiful, colorful hallway. And this one was in, I think, Vancouver, BC. And I just waited and somebody walked by. If you're into landscapes, you know, frames everywhere, through trees, through rocks. You know, you go to the Alabama Hills, you go through the arch, or out to Arches, you know, everything has all these natural frames that are good to use in your photography to shoot through. Got a bunch of frames going on here. Riding in the car, this natural frame of the car window. This woman just standing there in front of the doorway. In fact, the car's out of focus. It adds depth to the picture. And you know exactly where you want to look. And you know what my point of view is. So there's a bunch of pictures. There's a picture over here. There's pictures within this picture. There's pictures over here. There's pictures within this picture, this picture. This is another picture up here. And this guy's a picture. And then the totality of it in one picture. So your eye goes looking at all kinds of different things to make it one whole picture. Again, shooting through a car window. Simple framing. But we all know that that's an old car and it's an old building, and so it's pretty simple. Using frames, people on the other side of windows. If you have a family member, I don't know if you have maybe at home you have a glass door or something, you know, and with the right light, you can do a portrait through the glass, like you're shooting outward, like this is. Except for this case, I'm outdoors and they're indoors, but you could do just the opposite. Frames. Another sort of frame. I mean, we do use this stuff all the time in photography, but once you become kind of attuned to it, I think you'll, you know, there's great compositional use of framing things, you know, besides our other tools, diagonal lines, rule of thirds, S curves, all the rest of it. But the idea of having these dynamic graphic shapes. You know, I'm photographing a sunset on the beach. This guy coming by on his bike. Again, like the others, there's pictures within pictures. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. Pictures down here, pictures over here. Here's one where I'm outdoors, again, photographing this model, looking through this old glass. This is in Maine. That it's that famous house where that painting of, I'm losing the artist's name, where the painting of the girl in the grass is. Anyway, it's the same house. Frame of a car window. Looking out the window. If I was just if I just was just this, it's an interesting picture, but all this stuff around here gives a more of a sense of place. Like this kid's looking at me like, I don't know what he's thinking. A natural frame. These people are framed by all this. It's a different sort of frame. It binds these people over here in this corner where they have this behind this sculpture in Chicago. You can use shadows of frames. That's all that's going on here. There's a shaft of light going down the street. I expose for the highlight because I want everything else to go dark. It's just about shadows, light and shadows, but the shadows create a frame around the shape of the feet and the rest of his body. Frames in the background, foreground, background. Simple. Again, like that, the picture of the shadow walker guy is just this little shaft of light on the porch with a broom. I mean, it's not an important picture, but it's graphic, and I've isolated this broom and purposely made those black. It's good to have in color photography, is black and white and color photography, to have a black somewhere. Not always.
Keith,
Yeah,
can we move on to the judging at this?
this is the last one, I think.
Perfect.
So again, the dark windows. Jennifer is just, the sun is coming through another window similar to this. I expose for this light area. I don't want the meter to bring up all these shadows because it's really ugly. So it's just, again, use your spot meter or whatever it takes, underexpose, so you can get the dynamic shadows. Okay. What do you see now?
Okay, so you haven't shared, you'll stop sharing, then you can go ahead and share the entries.
Okay. I got that.
Okay, so go ahead and share anytime.
Can you see that?
Not yet,
Okay. There it is.
not yet. There we go. It's coming in.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. So this is an infrared picture. I think my first impression is that after what we just talked about, framing, this photographer has used this tree as a frame. You see that? So the composition is good, I think. If I had my dithers, I think the photographer is standing straight up. Think about your perspective. I don't know if there was a way to get lower. So maybe this branch would have, if you went lower, it would have made this branch appear to be higher. And maybe it would have, I don't know, I'm just imagining this nice curved branch maybe over the top of the tree rather than right through it. But I think it's good. So am I supposed to give a number?
Yeah,
Or
the 10 being the highest score. And so I think I sent you the judge. Yeah.
I can't, the reproduction, I can't really tell that much about it because it seems to be, after you sent me the files, and now I've put this into a slideshow. It's really hard for me to tell the exact quality of this. I think it looks sharp, I think. But I can't really see the true quality of this. I think I'll give this a 8. That sound good?
There we go.
This is an interesting shot. Again, it's the quality I can't really tell. It's kind of pixelated back here, so I'll try not to pay too much attention to that. This looks like a fantastic day, whoever this person was. Wyoming, maybe, I don't know. It looks like I don't know if it's like HDR or something, but it looks a little flat to me, tonality. And maybe the photographer's trying not to lose the shadows in the face. And I understand that. Because usually it's the middle of the day. It's probably cloudy, partly cloudy maybe. I love the horses that are going through here and this water splashing, and you're getting some of the reflection down here, and the feeling of this is pretty nice, I think. However, I would like to, in my older age, I've really started being really concerned about a sense of place. I get some of sense of place here, but I would have liked to have seen maybe this a little bit looser. I mean, I get you're photographing these horses and stuff, and it's pretty dynamic. But like, what's going on over here on the, what is there's something more to be seen here. And so I'd have more of a feeling of letting these people ride someplace. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the photographer has mostly center right. I mean, this is right the center here. The weight seems to be a little bit on the right to me, but I want these people to ride somewhere. In other words, I feel like it's a little too tight. I need more of the movement. And I don't know if you were photographing from another horse too, maybe. I'll give this one also an 8. I'm a little confused about this one. It's Monument Valley. I'm not sure. Maybe the photographer can tell me if is it intentionally supposed to be like a painting, or if it is, then I understand it more rather than a straight photograph. If it is a painting type picture, the colors are great. I love the colors, but it's like, and maybe again, it's a reproduction. It's like super pixelated. And like these highlights are all kind of blown out and stuff. I think you could do a better job with the processing, or maybe starting afresh. It looks, if you take a picture with use a JPEG camera, you guys probably know this. You're taking pictures with JPEGs in your camera. It's a destructive file. So over the time, as you open it and process it and close it, open it, you start losing detail. It starts throwing away pixels because it compresses, decompresses. And that's why we use raw pictures. So it's the digital negative, right? So this, I don't know, this looks like it's been, I'm not sure. I love the colors, but I'm not sure if it's a photo or painting. So I'm going to give this a 6. This is a great sense of scale. Without these people, we'd have no idea how big this thing is. I mean, it could be like a little flood in your backyard or something. I don't know. But the fact that you have scale here, it obviously shows the immensity of this waterfall. Maybe it's Yosemite, I don't know. And also the fact that these people, it's light, dark against light. So they show up because they are like almost silhouetted, and they're standing against the white waterfall. These other people aren't as important. It's really, in fact, if you didn't have these other people, it wouldn't matter. It's really about this. This is the picture, right? This is your picture right in here. And the fact is, I like the fact it's black and white. it's nice and graphic. Sometimes when you take a picture in the middle of the day, the color just kind of tanks. So sometimes we move to black and white. So I'm gonna give this one an 8. I think that looks like graffiti on that rock. I can't tell. Oh, there's more people down here at the bottom. I didn't see that. This is an interesting picture. I don't know if it's contemporary or it looks like it's an older photo, and that's okay. But it's a classic, the soft portrait with this high key lighting. It has a nice portraity feel to it. The woman is the mother, has a nice expression. The baby is like, you know, what the heck? How did I get here? And the composition of her, the way she's holding, or she has a frame. She's framing the baby with her arms, and that's really cool. I'd like to see, maybe it's just again my reproduction. She blends in on this side. She blends into the background. So I think, you know, if you ever want an assignment to do, try photographing white on white. And it's where you need to give some detail. Either this has to be the background a little lighter or slightly darker on, like on this side. I don't know the light's coming from right to left, but she tends to, and maybe the original shows it. But I like this one. I'll give this one a 9. I first saw this, I kind of went, what the heck? That's a lot of soda or something. Repetitive patterns. That's a big tool, important tool in our photography. To have, you know, things that are repeating patterns, and just the fact that you see all this soda like this all stacked up, it's kind of almost overwhelming. I would like to see, I don't have a real sense of a center of interest on this. You know, it's because there's so many, whoops. You know, I'm not sure exactly where I'm supposed to look, except for just everywhere. So I don't know if there was, again, someone in this picture, you know, sitting here, walking by, you'd make it more of a dynamic picture. Also, when I was talking about leveling things, the photographer is fairly close, I think. And their lens, you can see the curvature of your lens. See that? It's not straight. And I may be a little anal about it, but like that window picture of mine, try to use your or your lens profiles or whatever to try to straighten these things out a little bit. It's a little bit fisheye feeling, but I'm just, you know, being a little weird. So 7. I first saw this and I thought it was snow, just because of the super high contrast. This is not I think this style used to be more popular in the film days. You know, you just like super high contrast. It becomes very graphic. So what we have here is we have a picture of this tree, we have a picture of these trees, we have a picture of the mountains, and we have a picture of the windmill. So it's divided up in these sections, not unlike we do with frames. I think actually just the highlights have created a frame itself. I don't think it's meant to be informational so much, but just like a graphic photograph. Let's say I'll give this a 9. Now this is cool. I I've never been to Greece, but I'm guessing this is Greece. Point of view. That's what makes this photograph. The photographer got a little bit lower to get this bronze sculpture guy right in the foreground. And if you've never been there, you know, I suppose if you've been there before, you maybe have seen it, but I've never seen this. I've never been there. You know, so it's a compositionally, I think this is really good, you know, because you were looking at this guy and then your eye goes up to the ruins up here in the sky. And I think this is a pretty cool picture. Your technical quality is not quite, I don't know, looking a little grainy. I don't know if this, if you had Photoshop, I know it's cheating, but I might get rid of this camera right here and maybe this one too, but that's not a huge deal. Maybe a little more vignetting on the side, just slightly darker around the edges. But it's pretty grainy, but I like it. I'm gonna go with 9 with this one too. I have a friend, a guy named Pete Salutos up in Seattle, and he does a lot of these, I guess you call them mirrored images. I'm not sure, you take a picture and then divide it in half. It's pretty cool. You know, it looks almost scary in a way. It's pretty saturated, and I guess that's sort of part of the, you know, the look you're going for here. It's just as, I think if it's just as a photo illustration, it's pretty nice. If we're just talking photography, then I'm not so sure. I'd be curious to see what the picture looks like, the original looks like, where I'm just seeing the waves by itself, which might be pretty nice in itself. But a lot, you know, you're thinking, I like that, you're, you know, trying to create something, and that's why we do this. It's a creative process, so I like that. I'll give this an 8. I'm guessing this is India, maybe. I'm just imagining.